Hello everyone. In this video I will discuss the topic of documentation. At first, I wasn't going to record a video about this, but then I thought that someone might find it interesting, because from analyzing how to use documentation, I came to some interesting conclusions for myself about Go in general, and maybe some of you will find it interesting too. As usual, I tried to create an understanding of the general concept for myself. Since my main work experience was with PHP, I expected to see something similar to PHP.NET, but the logic of Go.dev turned out to be different. It requires an understanding of the structure of Go, or one might say, reflects the structure of Go. If, for example, you visit the official Go.dev website, you can see that its navigation leads both to its own pages and to other resources. It looks something like this. Here we see the top-level sections: Why Go, Learning, Documentation, Packages, and Community. There is also a set of nested addresses in the sections. In general, after visually inspecting the navigation links and links on the internal pages, I did not immediately understand the meaning of it all. There are links to Go.dev, links to pkg.go.dev, and some third-party resources such as meetup.com. But, digging a little deeper, I came to the following conclusions. First, the specification at go.dev/ref spec is a complete description of the language. That is, it is the entire Go language outside the context of its application. The specification describes the entire language from start to finish. That is, it covers syntax, keywords, expressions, types, interfaces, structures, generics, and so on. And, perhaps, from this we can draw the general conclusion that if something is not in the specification, then it is not in the language. It is also interesting that Go has only a small set of built-in functions, which are placed in a separate pseudo package called build-in. Their description can also be found at pkg.go.dev build-in, but they are also described in the specification in the build functions section. This package does not need to be imported, meaning that it logically belongs to the language rather than the standard library. With that, we have completely closed the question of language, as we have determined its source of truth. Next is the pkg.go.dev page, which allows you to search all public packages in the Go ecosystem. Anyone can be a developer of these packages. The search results will include links to the page with the description of the package. That is, there you can see what types, functions, methods, and constants it will add to the application if you import it. In other words, these are logically grouped sets of types, functions, methods, and constants created according to the rules of the language specification and available for import. That is, here too, we can draw a general conclusion. pkg.go.dev searches all public packages in the Go ecosystem, including the standard library. Third, there is the page pkg.go.dev std. This is the same as the previous section, but here only those packages developed by the Go team are presented. All of them come out of the box and are always available. The versions of these packages are tightly linked to the Go version, which means that, unlike external packages, their versions are not selected separately. This also leads to a general conclusion. pkg.go.dev std is a filter or a slice of the same directory that shows only standard packages. Fourth, the next important layer is the documentation for the Go toolchain, which is available through the Go binary. It is accessible by calling Go help or at the address pkg.go.dev cmd go. I mentioned this in the last video when I was discussing the Go toolchain. From all of the above, we can draw a conclusion. Go is a combination of the language, packages written in it, and the developer's toolchain. The core of Go documentation is the language description in the specification at go.dev/ref/spec, plus a separate page describing the pseudo package at pkg.go.dev build-in. Next is the package description page in the standard library, located at pkg.go.dev std, as well as the package search page for the entire Go ecosystem, located at pkg.go.dev. And finally, here is the documentation page for the toolchain at pkg.go.dev/cmd/go. Everything else is tutorials, best practices, links to authoritative resources, and the like. That is, it is also important, but not primary. To complete the picture, we need to figure out how to read the descriptions of packages from the STD and any third-party collections. Next, determine whether there is a difference in the logic of the description, and in conclusion, make a small note about how to work with documentation from the terminal, and look at some useful links. Let's proceed step by step and start with how to read package descriptions. As an example, I will take the standard FMT package, which is as simple and familiar as possible, as well as a third-party package github.com/pkg/errors, which is small and without overload. In my experience, every package page on pkg.go.dev has the same structure. The first block is the overview, a general overview of the package. It is similar to a comment on the package, describing its general purpose and sometimes key concepts or limitations. This is essentially the only place where the package author explains why the package exists. No other section does this. The next block is the index. This is a table of contents of the exported entities of the entire package, namely constants, variables, functions, and types. The index is not a description, but rather a map of the API. The next block is examples. It is not always filled in, but if it is, it contains examples of use. Next, we have constants. This is a detailed description only of the constants listed in the index. Then variables, a detailed description only of the variables listed in the index. Functions is a detailed description of only the functions listed in the index. And types is a detailed description of the types also listed in the index and their methods. And finally, there are source files. These are essentially just files with the package's source code. However, when working with external packages, there is a slight UX difference. Since the external package has additional entities such as README or license, you need to click on the documentation in the left sidebar. This is a transition to the API reference, which will correspond to the structure described above. Now let's see how to work with documentation from the terminal. I consider this simply as an addition. Go allows you to retrieve documentation directly from the terminal using the go-doc command. For example, you can get a brief description of the standard package using the command godoc-short-fmt. Let's run it and see a brief description of the package. You can also view the description of the third-party package if it has been downloaded, locally, of course. For example, if I run godoc-short and then specify the name of the external package. If I execute the command, it will return an error because I don't have it downloaded locally. Alternatively, you can get a complete description of the package by replacing the word short with all. For example, if we execute godoc-all-fmt, Go also allows you to display a description, for example, of a specific function that is part of the package. To do this, you can simply specify its name after a period following the name of the package, that is fmt.append. And just to remind you once again, all these options can be found at pkg.go.dev/cmd/go. And as planned, I will conclude by adding a few links from the official website that I found interesting, and perhaps you will also find something interesting there for yourself. The first is Go Web Examples. It provides easy-to-understand code snippets demonstrating the use of Go for web development. The second is a masterclass on a third-party resource that introduces the creation of CLI applications in Go. The third is Go by Example. This is a practical introduction to the Go language using annotated program examples. And the fourth is advice on writing productive and idiomatic code in Go, or, as it is often simply called, effective Go. Of course, I only gave these pages a cursory glance, but, in principle, they seemed interesting and useful to me. That's all. Just a reminder that all the links from this video can be found in the text version of the video, which will be in the pinned comment. I consider this topic basically complete, and if you found the video useful, don't forget to subscribe and like it. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time.